kind
Yeah.
of whatever crazy ideas came out of the office, figured out.
Well, welcome, Facebook Live viewers. My name is Brad Bodas with the Bond and Bodas Law Offices, and this is now our 13th episode of Facebook Live. We've been doing this episode since the COVID pandemic started up, and people have been, in large part, home. A lot of people unable to work, and these are just part of our effort to try to help people get back to work and to be prepared for the inevitable financial challenges that are going to be out there as the coming weeks and months come to us. The Bond and Bodas Law offices are located in Alabama, Mississippi, and in the Knoxville area in Tennessee. And for over 30 years now, we've been helping people get their lives back together financially. During the current pandemic, we are offering absolutely free initial consultations with an attorney, and for your safety, we're willing to do them by phone or video so that you can join in from the safety of your home or office. But let's get to today's episode, because I'm really excited today. I'm just fortunate to have a special guest, my friend Chelsea Lambert. Chelsea, in addition to being my friend for a long time, is a speaker. She's an author, an entrepreneur, a successful business lady. Chelsea, we've now known each other, I believe, since 2006.
Yes.
I remember because at that time I was serving as executive director of the National Association of Consumer Bankruptcy Attorneys. And I met you and I said, boy, this young lady is going to be something. She is going to be successful, because you were vibrant and you were enthusiastic, and you looked me in the eye when we spoke, and I said, look out, world. Chelsea's going to be something. So why don't you start, Chelsea, before we get into the subject here? Why don't you tell people about what you do professionally and a little bit about your business background?
Yeah, thank you so much, Brad. I'm really, really happy and honored to be here today. It's not a story that I get to share very often, or that many people know about, which we'll get to in a little bit. But I am a legal technology marketing specialist. So I co-own with my partner a full-service marketing agency where we help companies sell and market their services and software to law firms. I am also a multiple-time published author. I wrote my first book in 2017 that was a nearly 200-page book on all the different technology and software options for lawyers. That was really
great.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, there's so many options. So really just trying to be the translator and for law firms as they work with technology. We also own events.legal, which is a master website of all of the conferences and trade shows that are now virtual, but were in person before. And then lastly, I co-own Legal Tech Publishing, which produces ebooks and webinars and all kinds of other resources for lawyers all over the country and the world.
Wow. Just fascinating what you've done in a relatively short period of time. This broadcast is intended primarily for consumers and individuals that will have financial challenges going forward. But for my fellow attorneys that are out there, business people, entrepreneurs in general, I can't say enough about Chelsea and the work she does. Her contact information is on the screen. And I encourage you, if you need help dealing with technology issues, especially, I think you work primarily with small, medium-sized law firms, but I imagine you'd help with any different type of firm.
Oh, we get all kinds. There's even, people who are new to the practice of law and then lawyers that practice in big firms that want to go out on their own. So it really spans the whole spectrum.
Well, she is excellent, but today we're going to talk about something a little bit different, and it's a story that, even though I've known Chelsea for a long time, that I really didn't know about. Chelsea has a personal story about financial challenges, and today she's going to share her story. And how she was able to rebound from those financial challenges and become the successful business lady, business person that she is today. Chelsea, for our viewers that don't know you, why don't you just give us a broad overview of your background?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for the kind words, Brad. It's been an honor to know and work with you for all these years now. It's different. It's interesting, like looking back on my personal history, because as you didn't know, this isn't something that I feel like a lot of people really feel comfortable sharing. And there's so much shame and embarrassment about the hard times or the financial situations that you may be facing in your life that I really don't feel like we talk about it enough. And especially with COVID, people are dealing with a lot of really, really tough situations right now. So my background in brief is I grew up in the backwoods of West Virginia, and my mom was an artist and my dad was an IT guy, traveling all the way to DC every day, just trying to make ends meet. We didn't have heat in the wintertime. My mom grew our food. At one point she bought a cow because she thought like we could, get milk. I mean, it's just like you do all kinds of things to hold your family together. And then out of nowhere, when I was 9, she was discovered as an artist. And we picked up the whole family and we moved to Chicago. And at that point, I mean, it was just like a 180-degree turn, culture shock. We were in private school, and all of a sudden, like everything was great. We had like a big house, and my mom's business was growing like crazy, and she was traveling. And the business continued to grow all the way through, I would say, the late 90s at this point. So we had about a 5-year really strong growth of the business. And then my parents started to have some marital issues, some pretty serious marital issues. And I think, also all of a sudden going from no money to having a lot of money, demons come out. And my dad battled some really through some really awful years of addiction, substance abuse. And it not only took a toll on their marriage, but it also started to take a toll on their business. And growing up, I had worked for them. Like in our house, it was like, if you could walk, you could work. So I feel like I'd been working since I was like 4.
I'm not surprised knowing you.
And so, I would travel to craft shows with my dad on the weekend and like hold up pot holders and be like, my mom made this. And so I just grew up in that environment, and I was very involved in their businesses. I was their office manager from the time that I was 14.
Wow.
And just things would happen in the business, and I'd get called in sick to school, and all of a sudden I'm learning QuickBooks or whatever else needed to get done that day. So it was an environment where if something was happening, you just stepped up and figured out how to do it, which meant that as I got older, I became more and more involved in the business. And on a personal level, when their marriage started to fall apart, that then started taking a toll on our business, you make a lot of decisions that I was also very young. So at the time that their marriage started to fall apart, I was about 18, and they like really where things started to get really bad.
That's tough. That's tough at that age. It's tough at any age, but that had to be tough for you.
Yeah, and I think it was a situation where you had your work life and then you had your life at home, and so we all started to make pretty questionable decisions around money and finances to try and keep it together. And I remember when I was 18, these were the days of like 0% financing on cars, and the economy was in a good place. And so I was getting credit cards for tens of thousands of dollars. Yeah. Like no 18-year-old should have a credit card with a $40,000 limit. Like that's just predatory, or what, just a bad idea. And so when things started to fall apart, we started to do things like put payroll on my credit card. Or still living beyond our means, even though the income wasn't the same. And then the demons of like addiction and substance abuse and other things that were going on with my dad, really started to impact the finances. And you would think that there would be money in a bank account, and there wasn't. And so there was just a lot of stuff that started to kind of come out of the woodwork at that point that created this downward spiral. And personally and professionally. And so that's really the point where my brother and I actually on Christmas Eve one year went to them and said, at this point, like, your marriage is like, is so toxic that can you please get divorced? Like, we actually asked my parents to get divorced because they were holding on. And part of what, we can talk about today is waiting too long. Of like trying to hold it together because of the business, trying to hold it together because of the kids, and the damage that can happen as you prolong that decision instead of really just facing. And it takes a lot of courage and strength to face those conversations.
And the story you just told is one that I think is going to hit home with a lot of our viewers right now, especially people that have been running their own businesses, because trying to keep things afloat, being optimistic with credit cards for a period of time, we see it often. You're optimistic, business has done well for a while, you think you're going to be able to pick right back up, but that credit card debt can accrue interest quickly, and it's a deeper and deeper hole to try to get out of. And unfortunately, those financial challenges often lead to marital problems, as you and I have talked about. So tell me about the sequence of events, Chelsea. You and your brother confronted your parents, talked about whether or not their marriage was going to work, and then at some point you made your way to a bankruptcy attorney. How did that all happen?
So it was Christmas Eve, and at that point, I had recognized that the environment was really, earlier that year, I had recognized that the environment was so toxic and negative that I personally, as their daughter, needed to remove myself from the situation with their business, and that especially if they were going to go through divorce, I did not want to be caught in the middle of that, which I ended up being caught in the middle of it anyway. But from a business and finance perspective. And so when they moved to file for divorce, and they actually did uncontested and went through a mediator because it was more cost effective, the lawyer recommended that they consider bankruptcy, because the finances at that point were so devastated. There was no money. One of the two homes had been lost to foreclosure. Cars were on the edge of repossession, and you think about going from having millions of dollars in income,
Right.
And we never wanted, once we got to Chicago, we never wanted for anything. So it was very much like that lifestyle catches up to you very fast. And, retirement, college funds, all of that was getting liquidated. It was like, if there was money somewhere, it was going to be gone. And go ahead.
No, I was going to say, just the attorney that your parents spoke to was wise. In fact, we did an episode on this a few weeks back about the intersection of divorce and bankruptcy. And for viewers out there that may think a divorce is imminent, it's often a good idea to talk to a bankruptcy attorney first. So the attorney there was wise in the advice he gave to your parents. I imagine this was a scary time for you, Chelsea.
It was.
Yeah.
It was. And actually, it's interesting you asked me about the timeline. I actually didn't file until almost 2 years after they did. So I moved back to Chicago. And coincidentally, how we met was I was like, anything could be better than what I'm going through down here. So I was living in Champaign, and I moved 2 hours north back to Chicago. And I was like, anything could be better than what I'm going through. So I'm just going to look for a job, in technology and see where it goes. At this point, I just need to get back on my feet. I need a fresh start. I had friends. I couldn't even afford to get a place of my own. I was staying with friends. And I got a job in Chicago. I answered an ad off Craigslist, of all places, but that's where, most of the job postings were. So I walked in and worked for good friends and colleagues of yours. And it was just the most amazing gift. And I really found my home, and I found a job that I loved, and I was successful in it. And coincidentally, it was in the bankruptcy, in the bankruptcy universe and technology space.
And just for our so people outside of Illinois and outside of Chicago. So you said you came up from Champaign. You're referring to Champaign-Urbana, which is where the University of Illinois is. Were you in college now? Did I miss that, or were you just?
No, so I was out of college at that point. So I worked with my parents. We had offices in the Chicago suburb of Mundelein. And then when my brother went to college, he went to Illinois Wesleyan. So we moved the family business and our family down to Mahomet, which is a suburb of Champaign. So we had relocated, which was also part of the financial downward spiral, because we had taken on moving an entire office. We got a new house down there. We couldn't sell our house in Chicago. So what seemed like it was going to be a good idea ended up taking a massive toll. I mean, we're talking about like millions of dollars that were just evaporating, trying to have, two houses and then we weren't able to hire and replace our team when we got to Champaign. And there was just like this whole long list of things that started to occur where we couldn't get the business to bounce back in the same way. And then you combine that with, when people are stressed out about financial situations, now all of a sudden we're, substance abuse and addiction, like all of that really starts to multiply. And then the fallout gets even worse. Go ahead.
I was going to say, and so you found this opportunity in Chicago through Craigslist with our friends, Kevin Shern, Ed Scanlon. At that point, they were the next best thing in helping bankruptcy attorneys across the country get started. With lead generation, which was really some of the early technology. We're all doing it in different forms now, but they were really two of the entrepreneurs, and you were able to work with them, but still having financial problems, and you were scared.
Yeah, I was scared. And I mean, I was in sales, and it started to get really scary. And you all of a sudden find yourself, like, no matter how, smart or intelligent or experienced you may be, you find yourself doing these really weird, things like trying to make ends meet, and you figure out ways to make ends meet. And by the way, you're not telling anybody what's going on. I'm just like, okay, well, I'm in sales. I'll sell more. I'll make more commission. It's going to be okay. I'm going to get myself out of this. And I just kept saying to myself, and meanwhile, my parents are dealing with all their stuff, and that's a disaster and a half. And so I'm distancing myself from this. I'm mentally in a better place. But now my financial situation is looking really, really grim. Like, I separated myself from the problem, but I still carried all of those financial issues with me. So I was working for Ed and Kevin, and as you mentioned about the spiral and how it compounds. Interest rates, now I'm choosing to pay my car payment so it's not repossessed, so that I can get to work. Luckily, like, Ed and Kevin had given me a company cell phone, so I wasn't having my cell phone turned off, all the time. But at the time, I think my base salary was, like $25,000 a year, which in the city of Chicago doesn't get you very far. No. And it takes a while to build a book of business. So I was starting from nothing. And I remember on Fridays, like, you would get paid on payday, and I would come up with things like, okay, well, if I go to Walgreens and I do a debit card purchase, I know that I can get $100 cash and overdraw my bank account to get me groceries and get me through the next week, and you start coming up with all these like creative ways to make ends meet that, looking back on it now, what if that space was like freed up in your brain? How can you channel it into more productive or entrepreneurial endeavors? So I carried that debt and constantly, was robbing Peter to pay Paul for a year and a half before I finally actually it was 2 years before I worked up the courage to ask for help or what I should do.
And that anxiety is tough. We deal, so many people come to see us and we know they've put off and put off and put off coming to talk to a bankruptcy attorney. So often if people would come to us sooner, we could do a better job of helping them. It's just, I always tell people, be proactive, reach out and learn your options. Most bankruptcy attorneys offer a free initial consultation. And if you're struggling, if you're going through the type episode that Chelsea has just described, reach out for help now. Don't put it off. At least know what your options are, and don't get swindled by somebody at the opposite end of a website, somebody you don't know, somebody that you can't meet with, that's going to tell you how to solve your money problems. Go to somebody that you know and trust. And allow me just to do a brief segue here, Chelsea. So we are doing these Facebook Live episodes at Bond & Bodes to help people learn what their options are moving forward, to be able to embrace the challenges that COVID has brought to so many people, to deal with financial challenges that are out there. At Bond & Bodes, we have been helping people with financial problems for over 30 years. We're in Alabama, we're in Mississippi, and we're in the Knoxville area in Tennessee, and we are offering absolutely free initial consultations with an experienced bankruptcy attorney. We'll set up the consultation by phone or by videos. You can do it from home or from your office, wherever you feel safe. And we'll answer your questions and give you some direction, just so you have a little bit of a better sense of what your options are going forward to deal with the type of anxiety that Chelsea has described here. So in this episode, my guest is my good friend and very successful business person, Chelsea Lambert. She's a public speaker, she's an author, she's an entrepreneur, does work for attorneys all over the country. But today she's sharing her very own personal story about what she and her family experienced about both making money and then losing money, and the challenges that money issues can bring to a family and to an individual. So let me ask you this. What would you say, Chelsea, to people watching this right now that are embarrassed about financial problems, that are trying to keep their situation a secret from others?
That the sooner that you can ask for help or share with someone that you trust, or reach out and have that confidential conversation with an attorney, the better. I have no doubt in my mind that had my parents had that conversation about divorce and their finances a couple years prior, that we wouldn't be having this talk, today, that it would have been very, very different, that they would have been able to salvage a portion of their business, that they would have been able to salvage assets or, retirement, college funds. There was just so much at the end where money was just running out like water, and I have no doubt in my mind. And then for me personally, if there was one thing that I wish I would have asked for help earlier. And you're afraid. I think the fear of judgment. And when I finally got up the courage to ask, my fresh start and the next chapter of my life started almost instantaneously. Like, there is obviously the legal process and getting through the process of filing for bankruptcy, and depending upon your situation, like my parents and I all filed for Chapter 7 because at that point there were no assets left. There was there was nothing left. So that's what I would have to say, is that the pain of going through that conversation is nowhere near the prosperity and your new life and everything that you ever wanted for your life. I am living the life of my dreams. I truly am. And I'm so blessed and grateful. The other part is that you never know who can how much someone can help you until you ask them.
You know, you're right. People are embarrassed. They're humiliated. But I ask all of my viewers right now, look at Chelsea. Is there anything in her face that would make you think that she filed bankruptcy? Other than a smile, I would say no. That there's no public mark. There's no public.
There's no red
branded in some way. No. What I tell people is the only change is my clients come out of my office with a lighter heart, with a burden off their shoulders, and with that stress and anxiety gone.
Yeah.
So when I met you, you were just going through this process, but now you advise bankruptcy attorneys all over the country, and you've learned a whole lot more about the bankruptcy process. What advice about the bankruptcy process and choosing a bankruptcy attorney can you give to our viewers in different parts of the country?
So I absolutely agree with what you said earlier of don't just see something, on the internet and believe, whatever promises a website makes, because every situation is different. And having that conversation, the consult is not painful. Like I can share, my experience of when I really, asked for help. It's not as difficult as it seems. And really all it comes down to is you answering questions and providing, paperwork. Like I remember I still have it to this day in the closet at my mom's house that I am so grateful and blessed to have been able to help with. Like now, being a major breadwinner for our family is a totally different life for me. Is I still have the folder of all the paperwork that the lawyer asked me for, and my filing paperwork. I still have it, and it was the best decision that I ever made.
Wow.
Ever made.
Just to expand upon that, don't just talk to one bankruptcy attorney either. Now, I certainly hope people that come to us and seek our guidance will hire us to help them, but interview 1, 2, 3 different bankruptcy attorneys. We offer free consultations. You want to hire somebody that you're going to be happy with, that you're going to be comfortable with, meet the attorney's staff. Bankruptcy is an important decision. You don't want to hire a bankruptcy attorney based upon who will quote you the lowest fee or who has the fanciest ads. You want someone you're going to feel comfortable with and someone you know is going to be there long term, because issues can come up after the bankruptcy filing, and you want to be able to call back and make sure you can get help. Chelsea, I have a good question for you. Do you feel if you had not filed bankruptcy, you'd be where you are today?
There's no way. There's no way.
And why is that? What did bankruptcy do for you?
Bankruptcy allowed me to focus on my career, because I was so crippled at that point. And I had waited until I had close to $100,000 in credit card debt. My car was going to get repossessed. I was worried about how I was going to get to work. Like all of this, like you have so much mental space that when you look at everything and how it's just problem after problem after problem, you can't focus on your life, and you can't be a good partner. You can't be a good, spouse or a sister or a daughter or anything. And so it really, for me, allowed me to say, these are the dreams. It allowed me to get back to the dreams that I had for myself, to reinvent myself and really say, this is going to be the next best chapter of my life, and really draw that line in the sand and say, that's the old me, and this is the old pattern, and those were the old financial habits, and those are the old decisions that I made. And I now also, because one of the benefits of declaring bankruptcy is you have to go through it's a very short course, it's easy, but it's just a really great reset of what to do to manage your money, good financial habits, good best practices, where if you're at that point where maybe you've made some, decisions that you would have done differently, it gives you a chance to to build a new routine and build a new habit and an outlook on what your finances really are and what they can do for you.
So what Chelsea's referring to for our viewers is before filing for bankruptcy, debtors are required to complete a credit counseling briefing. And then after they file, before they get their discharge, there's a financial management course. Again, they're short courses, but many people benefit from them. Chelsea, back when these courses became mandated, I was working with NACBA, and I remember asserting that people should be required to take these courses before they get their first credit card, not when they're filing bankruptcy, but certainly learning all you can about how to budget and how to manage your money is important. So at what point did you feel everything's going to be okay? I'm going to get through this.
After I asked for help.
Okay.
And there was no judgment, and I'd be happy to share how that happened.
Please do.
Yeah,
Please
do. We both know Kevin and Ed.
Yes.
And so Kevin always worked late, as did I. I was always first, one or second one in the office. Like there were days I'd get in at 5:30 and I'd stay till 7:30. Like I was just doing everything that I could to try and get myself out of this situation. And it got to the point where I knew that I wasn't going to be able to do that. And I said, okay, I'd only been working for him for a couple of years. He's this, very well-known, prominent lawyer. And I knew he worked late. And I sat at my desk and I could see his office down the hall. And I sat at my desk until everybody left the office. Everyone. It was empty, huge office, like 100+ people. And I called him and I said, hey, do you have a second? I have a personal question that I'd like to ask you. And he invited me in his office. And I sat down and like my palms were sweating and I was nervous, embarrassed, and I was ashamed. And I was like, so my parents got divorced. This was happening with the business. I just started kind of like spewing out everything that was happening. And he looked at me and he said, stop. How much debt do you have? How long have you had the debt? Da, 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 da. And then he said, you're going to take time off and you're going to go talk to this lawyer down the street, another bankruptcy attorney that he referred me to because he wasn't practicing at the time. And he said, the next thing he said was, do you have the money? No, I didn't have the money. Like I was overdrafting my bank account to buy groceries at that point, hoping my car was going to still be outside in the morning.
Right.
And God bless him. And it was the most amazing moment. He took out his checkbook and he wrote me a check for the fee. And he handed it to me and he said, I don't care what meetings you have to move or cancel, you go see this guy tomorrow. And I took off work and I took that check right to the attorney. And I signed with him the next day and I paid Kevin back immediately as soon as I could. And I will always remember that. And it was a really, really hard thing, but it's amazing how there are angels in your life that you don't even know about until you ask for help.
So important, not just with respect to financial issues, but so many other things. Ask for help. There are people out there that care about you, people out there that love you and want to help you get to a better place. And I'm so glad Kevin was there for you. But a lot of people out there need to know, don't be afraid to ask for help. There are people that'll help you and there are options available. Mm-hmm. So you got to
and to that point, I worked my tail off for the next 5 years because I was so grateful. It's just like, oh my gosh, and so I worked for them for a total of over 7 years, and it was some of the greatest times of my life.
Well, and I know you still have professional relationship, I'm sure, probably with both of them, and we both think a lot of both Ed and Kevin and the work they do. So you're out of bankruptcy. You're starting back up. Tell me about some of the goals you set for yourself. How did you keep yourself motivated going forward?
Yeah. So, having seen the fallout of my parents' businesses, my mom never, it took her a long time to rebound from that and the divorce. And so I always wanted to be able to help my mom specifically because she had taken a bigger hit than anybody. She was a very famous and prominent designer, and a lot of her business reputation was tarnished during the course of events. And she wasn't ever able to really get back to like where she was. And I'm very pleased to say that, I write down my goals every morning. And one of my goals was, get a house in Tampa where my mom, can live. And when I got a job down here in Florida a few years ago, I brought her with me. I wanted to have a really nice, beautiful apartment in Chicago, like overlooking the water on Lakeshore Drive. I wanted to be a VP of marketing. I wanted to be a CMO. I wanted to be an author. And all of a sudden, when all this space frees up in your mind and you're not running around trying to keep a secret, which takes a lot of energy. I think people underestimate how much secrets can suck out of, out of your life.
Yeah.
And trying to keep secrets, trying to avoid, people serving subpoenas at your door, chasing you down, debt collectors calling your phone. Now the harassment piece was huge. I mean, it was like I didn't know if it was a sales call or if it was a debt collector. Right. So it was hurting my income. And so it was just I really started to be able to refocus and like envision a better life for myself.
Wow, that's just awesome. So you're now the grown-up Chelsea, still young in my eyes, but what advice would you give to your younger self if you could go back and talk to yourself at age 16, 17, 18 right now?
If I could talk to myself at that age, while it's very exciting that you get financing on a new car or, huge lines of credit on credit cards, to be mindful about mindful and conservative in your lifestyle and how you manage your business, and to plan for things to not go right all the time. I think it's easy to, especially when you're in a run of success. We have runs of success and then we have runs of hardship, and they alternate. So you kind of have to, that's one thing that I've learned, is to be prepared to go through the valley, knowing that there's this amazing outcome on the other side, but there's a lot of, trudging through the mud to get there. And to just mentally prepare yourself for that. And then also to recognize when you have to separate yourself from relationships that are toxic for your own self-preservation. Because if we don't take care of ourselves and preserve ourselves, and Susie Orman is actually a really big advocate of this in women. Women continually give. We continually try to like fix problems because we're pleasers and we're nurturers. And you throw good money after bad. You are constantly trying to solve situations. And really, if you don't have your own house in order, you're not ever going to be in a position to help your family. Like I can confidently say today, and I'm very grateful and blessed that I am in a position to help my family. If to an extent, especially during times of COVID. But if you don't if you don't take the steps to get yourself in that place, and for some of us, it means starting over and wiping the slate clean and starting again to build a better foundation. Also to not wait. Yeah. I can't stress it enough, just to not wait to have those hard conversations.
Great advice. And since you went there, and not to be sexist in any way, but you're right on. Women often take too much responsibility, and they try to fix things. I can say as an older guy now, that guy you marry is not going to change after you marry him. And so many women just continuously stick with and try to fix a situation that's broken. But I also find that women are the ones that reach out to us for help often. Women often have the fortitude to reach out, call a bankruptcy attorney, and ask for help. Women are strong, and we're. I am fortunate to have a number of female law partners, and just couldn't get by without the women that are practicing law with me and that are running our office essentially. But all right, so I have a list here of some questions that have come in. Go ahead. I don't want to interrupt.
And one last thing, I think just a trail on that. Women know how to ask for directions.
Yeah.
There's
Oops. Yes. I have a good male friend that turned off the female navigation voice on his automobile because he didn't want a woman giving him directions. He had to turn it off.
So.
All right, so we have some questions that have come in, and I want to pose these to you. When did you know that you weren't going to be able to get out of debt by yourself?
When I could only, when every single, week, I was trying to figure out what I could afford to pay for.
Yeah.
And you would pay for one thing because they'd be, harassing you or making threats. And then something else would fall behind. And so you were just kind of like, I was always like putting out fires every day.
Juggling.
Yeah. Constantly juggling. And then when it got really scary, when I started getting the threats of car repossession. And I think the scariest time was when I would have process servers showing up at my door with papers that I was going to be sued for some of my debts. That's the point where I was like, okay, this is no longer like anything that I could control. And then one thing to note that I didn't mention, I was at a point where I knew that my wages were going to be garnished. And I was like, okay, so if, Kevin at the time is my employer, he's going to find out either way. He's going to find out either my wages are going to be garnished and he's going to hear about it from the finance department, and if my wages are garnished now, I really can't afford to live, and I can't afford to get to work, and I can't afford to eat, and I can't afford, to live. And then what? And then I'm going to have no job, So at that point, I was like, well, what do I have to lose? He's going to find out anyway.
Yeah, and Chelsea, just to play off that, and you now are an employer, I think you probably share, so many people are worried, hey, my boss, my work is going to find out that I'm in bankruptcy, that I'm having financial problems. I would much rather have an employee, somebody I work with that has addressed their financial concerns than somebody that's constantly worrying about how they're going to pay their bills and worried about that debt collector call and worried about the garnishment. I want people working with me that are proactive and reach out and address the financial challenges they have. And bankruptcy is one way of dealing with financial problems and dealing with the stress and anxiety that money problems can bring on. So I can tell people, and I think you will agree, that as an employer, I'd rather you deal with your money problems. I'd rather you file bankruptcy than you be worrying about bills and having debt collectors calling you at work.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Without a doubt. Without a doubt. And especially for how easy it is now to be able to do a visit with a lawyer in the privacy of your own home over your phone. This is a phone I would never even be able to afford now or back then. So I went on a tear after I filed because I was like, I wasn't distracted. And I was probably one of the most loyal employees that ever, that you would ever imagine, because you pour all of that extra energy and thought process and room in your brain into your work. You're not stepping outside to take a phone call because you're afraid your card's going to get repossessed, and you're, not like making micro payments online trying to save, one credit card over another. So I am with you. If any of our staff, we're very lucky. We have 19 people nationwide now.
Wow.
Never would have thought, right? Like I could barely pay, my own bills, and now we're very happy to be able, and we've hired people during COVID, which is even more amazing. That I would much rather have anyone on our staff come to us and ask for help, myself or my partner. And she's not here to speak, but I'll speak for her today, is that whatever it is that our staff needs, we're going to find a way to help you. Either we'll refer you to someone, or we will ask a friend, for a contact. We're going to do everything that we can, because we want you to be happy and we want you to be safe and feel like you have us as a friend and a resource.
And I suspect, knowing you the way I do, it's not only the people that work with you, your friends in general. If somebody needs something, and that's the next question I have here. Did anyone turn their back on you that you expected to be by your side? That's a big concern a lot of folks have. And what I'm hearing from you is just the opposite.
Oh, it was absolutely the opposite. The people who know this story that have, it's amazing how when I heard a quote the other day, it was, your heartache is someone else's hope.
Oh, wow.
And I have never shared this story or intimate details of my own financial struggles ever, never once, without the person on the other side saying, oh my gosh, you wouldn't believe what happened to me. Oh my gosh, my brother went through something. And I'll be honest, if somebody does choose to place judgment on you, then maybe they aren't the best fit for you as a friend or, in a relationship.
Exactly.
Nobody's perfect, and everybody goes through hard times, period.
And you find out who your friends really are when you're going through trouble and you ask for help. All right. So what was the first thing you did to rebuild your credit after you filed bankruptcy?
Yeah. So this is the good news, right? It actually,
That's right.
It happened a lot faster than I thought. You hear all these things, and there's so many myths and like so many misconceptions. But if you pay your bills on time, you are conscious about, putting money away for a rainy day in case you have a gap in income, things like that. I was able to get a credit card within 3 months. I bought a car within 6 months. And it didn't even occur to me, like, oh yeah, you're way lower risk when you're buying a car than when you had almost $100,000 in, high interest credit card debt. So, and medical expenses and stuff, because as we know, being self-employed, surprise, you don't always have the greatest medical coverage. Medical expenses were part of that number that weren't covered by my health insurance. And so it happened a lot faster than I thought. And I started with prepaid cards. I started with secured credit cards where I would have to put like $300 and I remember the number. It was $300.
Right.
And I remember like holding the piece of plastic in my hand, and it had gotten so bad that I was like opening new bank accounts, so I couldn't even bank at some of the places that I had banked before. And so first was like, get a bank account again. Then it was do the secured, credit card and $300. And I just really was methodical about it. And now I am proudly a American Express Platinum card holder. So
awesome. So
crazy.
And what you said, it's surprising to a lot of people. Now, it hasn't always been this way. I've been practicing bankruptcy law for over 30 years, and we used to spend a whole lot of time helping clients rebuild their credit, but it's gotten easier and easier. We have people to get pre-approved credit cards within days after their bankruptcy discharge, offers to finance cars, and you alluded to it, but so that our viewers understand it, it's because from the lender's perspective, you're actually a better risk after your bankruptcy discharge. And that's for two reasons. One is you no longer have all that other debt you got rid of. And number two, if you filed a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, you can't file again for an 8-year period of time, or at least another Chapter 7 bankruptcy and get a discharge. So for that new lender, they're going to be in a much safer position extending credit to you following your bankruptcy. And we certainly do not have, our clients do not have difficulty reestablishing their credit. So I'm glad to hear you had that same experience.
And to your point, that was in the early 2000s, when you didn't get FICO score updates every 5 days. Like it's just so different now.
Right.
And we have so many tools as consumers to be able to monitor and pay attention. Like I look at my credit report and history very differently now. You know, it was like this, you know, behind the curtains kind of thing that you didn't really know about, and you had to pay to even get your own credit report. We have so many tools, they're built into our credit cards now where they proactively tell you.
Absolutely. And I suspect many bankruptcy firms do this, but at Bond & Bodes, we make sure that people's credit is reported properly following their bankruptcy. And this is important for people out there. After your bankruptcy discharge, do as Chelsea just said, monitor your credit. And if there's information reported there for debt by debt collectors that was discharged in your bankruptcy, those debt collectors, those creditors are violating the law. And we'll help you protect that discharge. We'll sue those debt collectors. We'll help get your credit cleaned up and get you some money while doing so. All right, I want to make sure we address as many of these questions as we can, Chelsea, because you're a wealth of knowledge. Now, there's one, how would your life be where you are now? I think we already addressed that. In the way you think about money and finances, is the way you think about money and finances different now than it was before you filed bankruptcy?
Yes.
How so?
Yeah. I look at money, you know, it's like that old adage, money doesn't make you happy, but money gives you options.
Right.
And the options that you have, like perfect situation, perfect example, I moved my mother to Miami with me when I got a job in Florida. I wasn't going to leave her in the cold in Chicago. And shortly after we got there, we had to evacuate for Irma. Now, old financial outlook, Chelsea would have been in quite a pickle, you know, like figuring out, hey, how am I going to get my mom, our new puppy, and myself to a safe area across the country, hotels, you know, car, all the things. Like that's like a legit emergency. You get out of your house or your house may not be here with you in it. You know, and those are the things where instead of it being a very stressful situation, and I'm just so grateful and I thank God every day that when situations like that arise, we're not in a position where the world is crashing down around us and we have to scramble and figure out what we do. I'm in a much calmer, the way that I look at finances and the way that I look at helping my family or solving challenges is like, okay, let's take a step back and let's really look and negotiate at all of our options and really figure out what's the smartest thing to do, as opposed to it being very reactive. Like it buys you time and it buys you the mental space and capacity to really think through what the best option is for you and your family, as opposed to it being your only choice because it's a money problem.
And that story about how you were able to help following or in anticipation of a hurricane is a good lesson for many of our viewers now, because COVID has devastated people across the country, not in just one geographic area. It's devastated people across the world. And as we come out of this, people need to be intentional. They need to plan. They need to understand how to deal with finances going forward. And I encourage, as I have every week, viewers out there, if you have financial challenges, reach out for help now. Get advice and get direction. Don't just sit back and let things happen to you.
If you don't get better, they get worse.
That's right. If you don't ask for help and if you don't get help, and help is out there. Question, Chelsea, when is it safe to start your own business after filing for bankruptcy?
Oh, wow. You know, it's a timing question for everyone. I think that where for me, starting your own business after bankruptcy was when I felt that I was being financially responsible.
Right.
That I had established enough new habits where I knew I wasn't going to make the same mistakes again. You know, like putting payroll on credit cards is not, no, you do not do that.
Right.
Do not do that. You know, and those are just, I was finally in a position where I felt like I had gained enough business maturity that I didn't go back out on my own until I really felt like, one, I had accomplished and I had learned from mentors everything that I needed to be successful in my next attempt. And I sympathize with entrepreneurs that are on their fourth or fifth or sixth or seventh attempt, and they're just waiting for like that, right? It took a while for me. It took a while for me to find the right business partner. It took a while for me to find the right niche. And so I would say, be confident in your network of mentors. Pay very close attention to who those mentors are and their financial habits, because what they may do with their money is not always what you should do with your money. I've been really fortunate to have people like, you know, Ed, Kevin, and other successful entrepreneurs in my sphere of influence. I'm a big believer in that you are a product of the 5 people that you hang out with most, and that you adopt those habits. If anyone follows that same methodology, but I was financially mature enough, and you can be financially mature at 20. You can also be completely financially immature at 40. So, you know, I think it's a personal thing of when you feel that you are going to be responsible with opportunity and not squander it.
You know, I'm a firm believer, after having people helping people seek bankruptcy relief over the last 30 years, that entrepreneurs like yourself just could not flourish in our country without bankruptcy. Bankruptcy is a safety net. It allows people to go out and try to start a new company, to try to make money, to try to provide employment opportunities for other people. And without the safety net that bankruptcy represents, a lot of entrepreneurs just wouldn't be able to go out and take the type chances and have the type of success you've had, Chelsea. Last question. Have you run into any financial challenges because you filed for bankruptcy?
No.
That's a good simple answer. Yeah, it's a good simple answer. And it's so many people think it's going to be with them for the rest of their life. You know, all kinds of wives' tales like, I won't be able to get new credit for 7 years, or I can't buy a house, or I can't buy a car. And I have thousands of clients over the years that I've helped obtain bankruptcy discharges, that are living in nice homes, that are driving nice cars, that have good jobs, and they're happy. Chelsea, you are an inspiration. And I hope and pray that every client we're able to help get through the tough times money problems can bring, and get a fresh start by filing bankruptcy. I hope all of them can come out of bankruptcy with the attitude that you've shared with us today. Bankruptcy can and should offer an honest debtor a fresh start. You went through the process. You now employ multiple people. You've contributed a lot of money to our economy. And I know you're going to continue to do well. And it's because you reached out for help. It's because people were there to help you. I thank you for helping me today, and for thanking our viewers. And again, I just want to give a plug for other attorneys out there listening in. Chelsea and her company, tremendous resource, learning about technology and how to make a law office run more effectively. Her contact information is across the bottom of the screen right now. In finishing this episode of Facebook Live, I want to remind viewers that these episodes are available after today, going forward on our Facebook page. If you know somebody that might benefit from what Chelsea's had to say today, please share our page with them and this Facebook Live episode. Let them listen and be inspired like I was today, and like I hope a lot of you were today by Chelsea's story. We will continue to do these Facebook Live episodes every Wednesday at 1:00 p.m. Central Standard Time. Tomorrow we're going to have, or next week, we're going to have a very interesting episode and a very timely episode concerning unemployment benefits. Many of you know that the federal supplemental unemployment benefits are going to be running out at the end of this month. So we're going to have an expert available to talk about options and resources available with respect to unemployment. But as for today, on behalf of Chelsea Lambert, thank you. On behalf of the Bond and Bodas Law Offices, thank you. And we pray that all of you will have a great week and a successful financial future. Thank you, Chelsea.
Thank you so much for having me, Brad. It was an honor.
Thank you.